VIG, the paper corrupt VIG. I don't know if you want to focus on this a bit because it's really important. This is history being made. And, this is one of the biggest events in probably 50 years for the United States and the banking industry and commodity, precious metals. Okay, that's based on paper, and they have no silver. The COMEX does not have any silver. They don't have any metal. The U.S. Mint says we don't have any silver to mint coins. They post a price at the U.S. Mint, and they actually say, but we have no supply. Okay, this is history being made. It's shocking, and it's going to get resolved one way or another pretty damn soon, because what you have is shortage of silver in Shanghai, and the price is strong and rising. No metal in the West, no metal, and various central banks and official mints, like even India has big delays and formal announcement that they're very short on silver coins and bars. They go by more bars, like 10 ounce bars, things like that, and certain gram denominations for bigger bars. But in the West, we don't have any metal. We have shutdowns of various mint operations, and they did a body slam while shutting down the market for certain aspects. This is unbelievable corruption. It is in your face corruption. It's like a woman staring you in the face saying, "I'm a man, get used to it." It's that stupid. We're dealing with stupid corruption right now. Now, here, let me make a forecast. I could go on and on about this, but let me just make a comment. We have, oh gosh, I am really jazzed. I'm really jazzed. In the last 3 weeks, it's become very obvious that New York has no metal. They're doing cash settlement with their futures contracts for silver, which means it's a force majeure within the contract. It's not like a force majeure, oh my gosh, it's a huge surprise. No, it's force majeure written into the contract. They can force a settlement with cash because they don't have any silver. Then why are they able to price silver if they don't have any silver? Can you imagine going into a Target store or a Best Buy store, and they advertise a certain price for a television set, and they don't have any? Okay, this is absolutely absurd. So what has happened in the last 3 weeks, I think it started about 3 weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. The price in New York was dragged up by Shanghai. Shanghai would open in the morning and it was like $12 higher. So New York just crept up during the day and never quite made it. The next day, Shanghai is now $18 higher. And New York just crept up higher and never quite reached it. But there was some collusion on Friday, and UBS was involved. UBS is in charge of iSilver, the SLV fund, iSilver Trust, I think it's called. And it's totally corrupt. Anybody who invests in iSilver, you've got something wrong with your brain or your research, because it is a shorting mechanism using your money. I've got 2 or 3 clients out of it a couple of years ago and last year.
What is that? iSilver? What is iSilver?
iSilver. It's SLV fund managed by UBS. And people invest in it. They think, oh, I'm investing in silver, in actual silver. No, you're investing in shorting the silver market with a corrupt cabal bank called UBS, Union Bank of Switzerland. All right, UBS took their act to Shanghai on Friday and did a massive short using their fund. That's what their fund is. It's a shorting mechanism. And they lie through their teeth. You wouldn't believe the forms that my Michigan client had to go through 2 years ago to accept the risk of going to an honest fund, to accept the risk of leaving a corrupt fund. Okay, unbelievable. Okay, now my phrase is that Shanghai is now doing physical price discovery. If they don't have enough at 123, they'll bump it to 125. In the United States, in New York, if they want it lower, they sell a year worth of silver output in mining, like 800 million ounces. They do that once in a while, a couple times a year. They don't have it. They sell what they don't have. That's fraud. If you
So they're artificially suppressing the silver. They're trying to keep it down because they don't want the big banks to fail, correct?
That's it exactly. They have.
Okay, so once this, and you know, I've had Boponi, Juan, a whole bunch of different guests on saying once this goes through the roof, there's no stopping it. They'll try to artificially hold it back a little bit, but it's going to continue to just blow through the roof. And in no coincidence are we now seeing all the protests kick off in America, storming Walmart, storming churches. All of this is happening right at the same time by design, correct?
Yeah, right after the manufactured storm over maybe 2/3 of the nation. Did you get some snow in El Paso?
Yeah,
Nino?
we actually did. It lasted about 2 hours, but that was it.
How many times has it snowed in the last 30 years, according to your memory?
I mean, it snows here and there, but it never lasts long. It's almost bipolar weather.
Does it melt before it hits the ground?
Yeah, it does. Before you can put the carrot for the nose.
You know, when I was in Boston, we had about two, maybe a little more, 2 snowfalls that were up to your hip per winter.
Wow.
And I loved it.
I love snow. I love snow.
I was a skier. I've been downhill skiing about 120, 130 times. I didn't count. My favorite place was Sunday River in western Maine, just over the New Hampshire line, because there are no New Yorkers. Oh, the New Yorkers destroy a ski resort. They mess your entire day up. I've almost been killed by 2 or 3 New Yorkers. All right, back to this. All right, so there's a coordinated action. It's Antifa. I don't know if it's Antifa. It's anti-ICE. Okay, there's a lot going on. They marched into churches, and I think Don Lemon might possibly be arrested, and I would celebrate that. Okay, let's get back to silver.
He got arrested, but he's going to be facing the FACE Act and some other charges, but I don't know what kind of prison sentence he's looking at. It's more than a year. I know that. So that's
they'll suspend it and give him community service, and he'll go, playing in a playground. Anyway, there's something really interesting going on, though, and this is not over with. The Chinese might have been colluding. Okay, they might have been part of the smash. The pull down in the price. And let's just think this through. What does China want? If China says, all right, we'll agree to a smash down, but only temporarily, but here's what we want. What would they say? Here's what we want. Lower tariffs, quit dicking around, and don't try to force us to lower the yuan currency exchange rate. Okay, there are various things. Don't get in the way of Venezuelan oil tankers heading with oil to China. Okay, those are the little things. They're not really little. Those are the items that China might try to negotiate in order to collude. But, Nino, I'm really firm on this. Whatever China agrees to, it's going to be very temporary, because they want the silver, because they sell silver. I expect that the Indian solar farms, those corporations, they're going to go in there with both hands looking for silver at a cheap price. Now, notice it's 123. It got around 100 on Friday in Shanghai. So it snapped back. Why did it snap back? Because it's physical price discovery. This is a very important point. New York is paper price discovery and paper delivery. They don't have any silver. They're a store. They're a big supermarket. A big department store with no television sets. What are they doing in the business of pricing television sets? What are they doing in the business of pricing silver bars? They don't have any. Okay, so what's going to happen? What's going to happen? My guess. This is my forecast, Nino. And, I might be off by a few days. I think we're going to be back toward 95, 100, 102 in a week.
I heard it's going to go way higher than that. I heard 300.
Oh, yeah. In time. I'm talking about next week. Okay. By next week or 2 weeks, we're going to be looking at $100 price again because Shanghai will pull it up. Now, there's something beautiful about.
What's the sweet spot to you on when the banks fail? Like, what should my audience be looking for? Like, what number when silver hits that? When are the banks going to fold up?
I think this is just pure speculation, Nino. I got to clean my glasses. I got some junk on them. It could be 130. It could be 150. It depends. It depends somewhat on the board of directors and whether they get fired and whether they lose their insurance contracts for big financial losses. Word is getting out, and I don't know if it is, across the board for some major banks, but word is out that they're about to lose their insurance coverage for big losses. Therefore, the board is saying, you got to dump your silver short positions before February 10 or before February 15. We don't really know those dates. We don't qualify. We're not in the board room when those statements are made and those orders, marching orders, are given. But if we go to 130, 150, I think we're going to see some pretty big losses, or we're going to see news flashes that the Fed just poured out $100 billion to patch 3 banks for the holes that were burned by the silver market. Remember, it was about 3 weeks ago, the Fed announced that they put out, 17 billion, followed by 35 billion. I think it was 52 billion. I remember that as a total. They did not disclose what banks received the patches. Hey, would you like to get $1 billion, just to patch over, tide you over?
Yeah.
Upgrade your fleet of cars.
What happens to the people's money in the banks? I mean, let's say the banks fold up. What's going to happen? What is this going to look like? Paint a picture for my audience on what does this look like when silver goes through the roof and the banks have to fold. Are you not allowed to take your money out of the bank? Or, is just the cash going to be worthless? What does this look like?
It's going to be individual stories. Each bank is going to have their own policy and their own way of handling it. I can tell you that
they're going to have to try to stop the bank runs, right?
They're going to have to stop the bank runs. The measures that they have shown in the past are limiting the weekly and daily withdrawals. They might close down some bank branches to make it harder to do those withdrawals. Bank of America closed like 20 different branches in southern New Hampshire and northern Massachusetts 2 or 3 years ago. I had a show host, and she's not doing hosting anymore, but she said, Jim, you wouldn't believe it. There used to be 2 Bank of Americas in my area in southern New Hampshire. Now they're none. So that's one way. That's only one way. But here's what I think is likely also to happen. Some of the banks are going to say, we're shutting down certain operations. And they make money on checking accounts. I mean, isn't it like $10 a month or $5 a month for most banks? I mean, yeah. I still pay that. I can't keep it above the minimum because I'm dealing with so much shit here. They could do. Okay, I got to mention something. And most Americans
allow you to take so much money out. You won't be able to go out and just take all your money out of the bank, right?
You won't be able to take out $18,000. Huh?
You're going to hold your money hostage.
They'll hold it hostage, and then they may make reductions. They may say you can only take out $1,000 a day, and then in a week it's only $500 a day. But they would ban bank wires and have limits on bank wires. But let me point out something really important. They make money on their checking operations, on their checking and saving operations. They offer a pittance of interest on your savings. They offer a pittance on the CDs and the money markets because they're bound by the short-term treasuries, but they make money on those businesses. So if they go bankrupt, they're not going to shut down their checking and savings operations. They're going to encapsulate it and say, who wants to buy that for 12 million, for 12 billion or 8 billion or 1.7 billion if it's a smaller bank? Who wants to buy it? And in comes another bank. I've had that happen to me once. Suddenly, I had notification that we've changed the name of our bank. And I said, what do you mean by that? Well, we got bought out by a bank. Well, why did you get bought out by a bank? Well, we went bankrupt and we had a partial settlement and we carved up the bank. Oh, so you had a bank failure. Why didn't you start out with that comment? Because they don't want to. They don't want to say they failed. And okay, anyway, the savings portion is vulnerable to a bail-in, but it's also more likely to get bought out by an external party, third party, and then you continue. That happened with Mellon Bank in Pittsburgh. I think it was around the late 1990s. They just said, we're selling out our entire retail. Okay, well, that's the same thing that a bank in trouble would do. Mellon didn't do that because they were in trouble. Mellon did that because they didn't want to get their hands dirty with the public. They wanted to move up the scale, move it up to Bank of New York Mellon, and now they're involved with derivative settlements and making some good money. And if they ever get involved with XRP, they're going to push the price to $500. Okay, I want to get back to this issue. China and Shanghai, they are the nexus for the BRICS nations. And they don't like the dollar. They've been de-dollarizing for a long time. Dubai honors the Shanghai price for gold and silver. They don't like the United States, but they hold their nose when they shake our hands. Dubai, the Gulf region, the monarchies, the Saudis. We have violated their religious norms by having an Air Force base at Prince Sultan. Okay, that was a big issue. U.S. Air Force on Saudi holy Islamic land. Oh my God. They don't like us. They're not going to cooperate in Shanghai. They're going to do the absolute minimum. UBS was in there, and I bet you they got a 24-hour permit to come in and shit all over the place. That's what I think happened with UBS and the iSilver Trust. They did their damage, and now, okay, it's Monday. You can leave now. You're done here. Okay. Shanghai sprang back from 100 to 123. Why? Because their physical price discovery. They don't have a year worth of mining output that are dumped on the market in an hour and a quarter like we do in New York. The New York is corrupt as the day is long in Saskatchewan in June. Okay. And by the way, I've been in Saskatchewan in early July, and it's like 10.
I'm just letting you go. I pulled the string, and you're going, buddy.
10.
Let me ask you this, though, Jim.
Go ahead. 10:20 is the sunset in Saskatchewan.
So, obviously, we're trying to avoid the Great Reset, right? The globalists have wanted the Great Reset. How does this look to you with Trump being in office? How are we going to avoid this? What methods is Trump taking? We're going back to a gold. We're going to a gold-backed, silver-backed dollar, from what I understand, constitutional money. How does that look? Are we going to coexist with the Federal Reserve for the time being? What makes the transfer, the transition? How does that look to you?
Well, you got to notice something, that the announcement of what's his name, Warber. Oh gosh, I can't think of his name. WAR something. Warsh.
Yeah.
Okay, Warsh. The announcement of Warsh happened the same time as the silver ambush.
Right.
Okay.
He's the new Fed chair, correct? Warsh.
Well, yeah, he's the heir apparent because Jerome Powell is not gone.
Right.
Now, let me fill in some blanks for folks. Jerome Powell, in my opinion, and I can't prove it because I'm not a member of the board and I don't get to sit in and I'm not a fly on the wall. But there was a war that raged back in 2021 and 22, the European banks versus the US banks. And BlackRock was part of the European banks. Let me just say that there's some movement of money underground that BlackRock is deeply involved with, but I don't want to get too much in detail there. And that came from Switzerland, and the activity came from Ukraine. And anybody who doesn't know that Ukraine is about laundering, you're either stupid or blind, or you're just placed corrupt. Okay. So BlackRock was involved with the underground from Europe. Now they had a war, so they needed a new Fed head to replace Janet Yellen, who completely turned rogue. She was actually quite honest and challenged. Oh, I remember in the first couple of years of the newsletter in 04, 05, Janet Yellen challenged Greenspan. She said, "You messed up. You urged people to go into adjustables. You messed up. Fannie Mae is on you." Anyway, she sold out. Jerome Powell was a compromise. They wanted an American, so they chose somebody from BlackRock who had a European coat on. All right, now we're moving out of that, and notice Jerome Powell is saying, "Oh, screw you! I'm not done yet. I got a term till May. I'm not going." So they're coming up with reasons to push him out. Perjury before the Congress, fraud in his financial statement, and I don't know what else. I don't think they have him for, let's just say, torturing younger human beings. I don't know about any of that. I think they're going to make a deal with Powell. They're going to say, "Hey, look, we'll give you $50 million if you get your ass out of that chair." Something like that. Something really basic and mundane. We'll give you money, get the hell out. So to me, when I heard that Warsh was named, I was thinking, oh gosh, that's not going to go over well. I wonder what's going to happen in the next few days. Silver down 30%. Okay, let's get back to the connection between Shanghai and New York. This has been fascinating. It was about a year and a half ago. I have a client who said, "Jim, will you give me a free subscription if I am a news hound for you?" And I do this with a few people, and I get a lot of good items in my inbox. And all right, thanks, Freddie. That's good stuff. And then he said, "I can also give you the Delta, the Shanghai Delta. How much higher is gold in Shanghai versus New York?" And it got to be like, 25, 30, 40. And it went back down to 0. And then it went up to 10, 20, 30 again. And went back down to 5. And now I'm asking him, give me the Delta on silver. And I got news yesterday. And it was a Saturday. New York's not open. This is really interesting. The physical market in Shanghai doesn't seem to sleep. New York is, 9 to 3 p.m. And that's where they do their corrupt business. And, when I mention New York and COMEX, I like to use the word corrupt in every sentence that's important because they're corrupt. They have no conscience. They're looking to say, what they're really saying is, we're going to preserve the dollar. The dollar we need to save. And what they're really meaning is, we need to save our bank from going bankrupt because we've got big preferred shares.
So the people that are going to be the safest in this zone that we're in right now are the people that have been hoarding gold and silver physically. Correct?
Yes.
They're going to be the ones that make out. What does that look like? Explain to my audience. What is that? I mean, are you going to go and change your money over for a gold-backed dollar, or are you going to be able to borrow against your gold? I don't even know how this works.
I haven't heard anything yet that's real, and you can put your finger on it, and you can make it confirmed about a gold-backed dollar. I haven't heard anything. Okay, I hear whispers,
hearsay rumors, whispers and rumors.
Whispers and rumors, and okay. I heard whispers and rumors in 2022.
Right, but it kind of looks now, 2026, that things are picking up pace. You got to admit that. It looks like now the wheels are off, and we're
and one confirming item is that we're up to 5,000 gold, and we're up a full 100% in the last 3 years on the gold price. Why would that happen unless they were moving toward a goal? Okay, they're not going to make a gold-backed dollar at 2,000. They're not going to make a gold-backed dollar at 2,500, nor at 3,000. They might do it at 7,500. They might do it at 10,000. They might do it at 12,000 on an overnight reval. Okay, they just declare 12,000 now, and boom. Why would they do that? Because they might want to do a gold-backed dollar. Okay, I gotta explain some reality here. Nino, this is dangerous business. Let's suppose that on March 1st, we have a gold-backed dollar. Okay? Now, we're losing $1 trillion every 100 days for the deficit. So bond purchasers could purchase $100 billion worth of treasury bonds, which would be 1/10 of our deficit for 100 days, and immediately demand our gold. We don't want that. If they buy our bonds, they're going to be gold-backed bonds. If we have a gold-backed dollar, they'll be able to demand our gold, and they'll vacate Fort Knox in a year and a half. We don't want that. We're not going to a gold-backed dollar as long as we have big-time deficits, period. And people are not thinking that way.
So you don't see this happening at all, or what?
I think we would lose all our gold. We're a deficit nation. We're a freaking third world nation.
So what happens, Jim? What you're the financial expert. What happens here? Tell my audience what happens here. What happens? How do we get through this?
We just stumble along and become a third world nation that loves war. We changed the Pentagon Department to the Department of War. We're going to do the Don Road Doctrine. I think we're going to take over.
You're not under the belief that Trump is going to transition us into a gold-backed, silver-backed dollar. You're not under that belief at all.
We'd lose all our gold. I mean, Nino, you're thinking in a silo. I'm thinking we got a deficit here, and we got a gold-backed dollar here. Boom! We lose all our gold with a deficit. $1 trillion every 100 days. Okay, $1 trillion is about 8,000 tons of gold. Okay? Every 100 days, we'll lose 8,000 tons of gold.
Jeez.
Are we going to the gold standard? I know. Some simple-minded moron will say, we'll sell treasury bonds, but they won't be redeemable in gold. Therefore, they're not going to be connected to the dollar. Therefore, the gold-backed dollar doesn't make any sense at all. Nino, you got to think about 3 or 4 different silos, and they're connected. And another silo is our oil shipments. We have been selling oil and not telling the market. We've been selling oil, a whole tanker, and I think it's worth, I don't know exactly, I think it's worth like $3 billion of oil for an oil tanker. And the buyer gets credit in Los Angeles for imports. So, in other words, we've got trade payment in oil. We're not talking about it. They don't want our treasury bill. The only way they're going to buy our treasury bill, we're having lousy auctions now. Lousy. And if Trump lowers the interest rate with Warsh, we're going to have even worse treasury auctions. Nobody's going to want it.
What if we bring back the mining for silver here in America? What if we hit that sweet spot of a 300 or 260 to 300? We start pulling in mining of silver in America. Does that put us in a bet? Does that give us better footing?
Sure, that
So that's
might
what. So I've heard that's what we're looking for. That's what we're trying to do.
I know, but
that the investors don't. Hold on, let me finish. Let me just finish. That the investors do not. They want to do this, but they don't trust the post-Trump era, and they don't trust JD Vance to put their money into mining silver in America. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it makes sense, but you gotta keep track of the volume. If we bring in gold and silver mining more, we've already half of Nevada. That's a joke. A good portion of Nevada is already a gold mine. We've got 2 or 3 companies that are doing gold mining. If we introduce more mining, then we might have some more output in 18 months. And furthermore, the total increase might cover our deficit for 3 days per year. Okay, you got to get a grip of the size of our problem. What we are likely to do is sell our country to 12 nations who are successful because we can't manage anything.
Or take them over, like Greenland.
Yeah, like Greenland. Okay, let me
that's our shit now.
Let me just touch on Greenland. We made that deal without laying out any money. What we did was we bought, I don't know what we paid. I don't know whether it was just, okay, you can use those northern areas to make a base or expand your base. Do we have to pay anything? I heard we didn't pay anything. So if we expand to make another military base to govern the northern shipping routes, how are we going to pay for the new base? More debt, more deficit, another trillion, not in 100 days, but in 90 days, then 80 days. We're dealing with $3 trillion a year now, 3.5. And with funny accounting, we bullshit our way and we make it sound like it's only 1.9. Oh, yeah. I use 7th grade mathematics. Okay. I say, what was the deficit, the debt at the end of last fiscal year? What's the debt at the end of this fiscal year? Do you mind if I subtract the 2 and push aside your bullshit pro forma adjusted freaking nonsense that says 1.9? Sorry, it's 3.4. 7th grade mathematics. They don't even call it math. They call it arithmetic because it doesn't have any Greek letters. There was a great quote I heard 20 years ago. I used to like mathematics until they introduced all those letters. Okay, that's called algebra. Okay, A plus 2 equals 5. What's A? Okay, that's algebra. And okay, I put that before little kids. And they go, I don't know. I said, if you add 2 to what number do you get 5? Oh, 3. Then why can't you just solve A plus 2 equals 5? Oh, A is a number. Oh my gosh. Anyway, I like math. By the way, I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good at math,
You better be if you're a financial expert.
No. I'm a probability and statistics expert, and I'm filling a void because I am not, wait, what's the word? I have a doctorate in statistics and I'm unencumbered by the limitations of economics credential. Oh, no. I'm unencumbered by the limitations of economics credentials. I'm not an economist. I'm a statistician operating in the economic sphere because the economists work for the government and the banks, and they're both corrupt.
All right, I got to end. I have a hard stop here, Jim. Give me your prediction for this year. What do you see happening? What should my audience do to prepare?
Buy XRP. They give you another discount. They're trying to drive people out. Buy XRP, use exchange traded funds. I think that by the end of the year, it could very easily be double, triple, or 5 times bigger. I mean, like 200%, 300%, 500% increase. I think silver by the end of the year will probably be touching. Remember, we got close to my Fibonacci 130 node. Remember my 130 node? We got close. I think we're going to be approaching the 210 node by the end of the year.
You don't think it could go even further than that?
You didn't ask me that. Now you are.
Yep.
How do you ask, how do you prepare? I said, I think we're going to be approaching the 210 node and we may go past it unless they do a sequence of pathetically corrupt maneuvers like they did on Friday.
So buy XRP, buy silver, buy gold.
I didn't say buy gold, but I like silver a lot more than gold. Okay, notice that the ratio, the gold-silver ratio went down to 50. It used to be 90 and 100. That means the gain for silver is twice as much as the gain for gold. That's why I like silver. And by the way, do you know about giant vaults like in the Philippines that are loaded with gold? Yeah. Do you know about any giant vaults that are loaded with silver? No.
No, no, okay. I don't. You're right.
I think there was a poll that happened in a Euro Central Bank sponsored luncheon back in 2020. They did it every 2 weeks. They did a poll and they were asked, what is the equilibrium price for gold and silver? They said 400 silver, 10,000 gold. Equilibrium. That means supply equals demand. You get everything kind of balanced and steady, and you don't get these corrupt jumps. We need to ban the Wall Street banks from the COMEX. By the way, Shanghai, about 3 weeks ago, said we will no longer honor New York contracts for gold and silver using the exchange for physical. In other words, buy it in New York cheap and get a delivery in Shanghai where it's worth more, where they could instantly sell it and make the VIG. Okay, now the VIG is $40. Okay, what happens, Nino, if we get a Shanghai silver price of 180 in the end of like 2 weeks from now, but we're still at, say, 110 in New York, a 70 VIG. We're at 40 now. If we get a big enough VIG, I think they're going to shut down the COMEX. That's what I think.
Wow. All right.
Gold, okay. Silver, great. XRP, wonderful. They're giving you a discount. XRP, I mean, from Ripple, I think it's going to become the global standard. And here's just a little funny hint. They're saying it might become, and it was designed to be the cross-border standard for transfers. Well, cross-border, isn't that trade payment? The trade payment standard is the treasury bill. So they're saying that even bigger than the trade payment standard is going to be XRP. XRP is going to supplant the treasury bill and become a global standard. The fact that they got a bank license, that tells me that BlackRock and JP Morgan have like 5 billion coins. They're going to send it to 200 and they're going to make $1 trillion each.
Good enough, Jim. Thank you so much, Jim. Golden-jackass.com, golden-jackass.com. I'll put the link down there below, Jim. Let's get you on. I'm going to try to get you on every week if we can, man. Are you good?
I'm the gentleman.
Every couple weeks.
I'm the gentleman jackass. Every couple of weeks would be fine. You just keep in touch.
Okay. Because I want to get these updates, because this is getting so volatile. It's
They're
crazy.
going to try to continue on Monday what they did on Friday.
Okay. Jim, stay with me. Stay with me just a second. Thank you so much for joining me. It's an honor, always. Thank you.
Okay. All right.